How to cut the emotional umbilical cord to your mother. This is what I'm talking about in today's video, men. Today, I'm giving you the full rundown. I'm going to tell you what the emotional umbilical cord is. I'm going to tell you how it forms, why it forms, and most importantly, the exact practical steps that you need to take to break free from your attachment or enmeshed connection to an overbearing, controlling or devouring mother figure. So if you feel like your relationship with your mother has held you back from becoming your own man and fully maturing as a man, keep you trapped in sort of boy psychology, then honestly don't click off this video, watch the full thing because every part of this is valuable. And with that out of the way, let's dive right into it. So first of all, what is this emotional umbilical cord? And is it just some weird pop psychology bullshit? Is it woo-woo? What is this thing? Well, the emotional umbilical cord, it's a term that refers to the psychological and emotional dependence that a boy or a man can still have towards his mother. It's an energetic attachment in a way. And it's a term that was sort of explored and developed in Jungian psychology by the Swiss psychologist Carl Jung and his mates, basically, his contemporaries. The idea is that in order for a man to fully mature and develop and individuate from his parents, then he needs to go through a process where he cuts his attachment and dependence on the mother. Because this dependence on the mother, it's a very, very, very powerful attachment. When you're a baby, she is the life giver. She is the closest thing you have to God at that point. But he can't stay there. He can't stay in the womb. He can't stay attached to her. Because you basically, if every man was attached to his mother still, no man would be a man. You just have a society completely full of incapable boys that are dependent on everybody else. So this is extremely important, at least it was to our ancient societies, that man would go through a rite of passage from adolescence into adulthood and cut the attachment to his mother. And usually this would happen with the help of the father. This is the way it's been for millennia, for tens of thousands of years. Humanity has gone through this. It's a stage in a man's life. The problem has happened though, is that in modern times, men are not going through this at all. More men than ever are walking around, boys in men's bodies, terrified of life, afraid to accept responsibility for things, indecisive, floaty, flighty, struggling with their sense of purpose in the world. And on some deep level, they're still attached to the mother. But what is it that keeps this cord strong? Why do we still stay attached to our mothers? Why is this even the case? Why does the cord remain? There's a few reasons for that. The first reason is we have an absent or a passive father figure. Some psychologists have said, and philosophers indeed have said, that we're living in the age of the absent father. And all the statistics reflect this. We have less of a fatherly presence than past generations have had, by far. Now, I talked in a couple of videos ago about how a passive father can lead the mother in the family dynamic to take on the role of man of the house. And a lot of the time she doesn't want to do this. She does it resentfully, really, because that's not her natural state. Most women are not naturally masculine, and this can exhaust her to the point where she ends up shifting into the negative aspects of the masculine, the controlling aspects of things, the criticizing aspects of things, right? And not only that, when he's passive, she's not getting her emotional needs met in the relationship, okay? And what she can unconsciously start to do is make the boy a surrogate husband. And this creates a problematic relationship from the boy towards the mother, all because the father was not present. He was absent in the dynamic. The second thing is we don't have any rites of passage anymore. You know how a moment ago I was talking about how rites of passage used to serve the function of helping a boy go from boyhood to manhood, and the elders of the tribe would help him do that through an initiation ritual. We do not have that anymore. The third thing is this epidemic of male loneliness and isolation. We used to exist in tribes. We used to exist in a gang of men they would form a hierarchy, they'd support each other, help each other, and there'd be a set of principles and guiding ideas that govern the tribe and help you grow and change and develop within that. We don't have that anymore. We have social media and we have people living in isolated apartments, if you can actually move out, that is, which brings me to another point. More men than ever are living at home. Because of economic problems, It's a disaster at the moment. The housing market is ridiculous. More men than ever are living at home. Now, this doesn't mean that it's impossible to move out. I think you can still move out, right? It's still up to you. But it makes it a lot more difficult. It doesn't make it as much of an easy option for a lot of men. And the last thing that keeps the umbilical cord strong is a negative relationship towards the masculine. Now, a boy, in order for a boy to go from adolescence to adulthood, he needs to fully integrate and embody masculine energy, the masculine energy that's within him. But if he's been taught that masculinity is bad or toxic, or that men are bad and toxic, he will repress this side of him and it will be dormant within him. He'll never actually integrate it. This will not happen. Ergo, he will stay a boy psychologically. So by now you should know what the emotional umbilical cord is, roughly, and you should know the factors that bring this about in men today. But now let's talk about the signs that you haven't cut the cord. So I'm going to list off a bunch of signs, and I want you to sort of think about this in terms of not any one sign will tell you that this is your problem, but if you have a bunch of signs and it's ticked a bunch of boxes, this may well be a sign that you should look at your relationship to your mother. So I've had to come inside purely because my Brazilian neighbours decided to play really loud reggaeton music over my balcony. He seeks approval and validation towards women. He's afraid of confrontation, which stems from that fear of upsetting mum and getting into trouble. He often struggles to attract women because women don't find boys particularly attractive. He withdraws and he avoids as a defence mechanism. He has difficulty in relationships, is either too anxious or is avoidant and keeps her at an arm's length. He has low self-esteem, low self-worth, and he might even have a neurotic fear of life, which manifests as a failure to fully engage with life and fully be alive and take his place in the world. And because he values and has valued her authority over him for so long, he lacks a basic trust in himself. His locus of self-evaluation is completely outside of himself. His own voice is the one he values the least. He often experiences a free-floating anxiety and fear without any obvious reason, and he might also use intellectualism as a defense mechanism. He's very trapped in his head and disconnected from his body. He might be very philosophically gifted. He might be very intellectual sounding or very smart, but he's not very grounded in his emotions. He often doesn't know what his emotions even are. Numbness, dissociation, depersonalization, these are all signs of an enmeshed attachment to the mother. He might put women on a pedestal, fear them even, have an unrealistic expectation of what they should do. Mother is God, so to him, women are God. He might have a compulsive relationship with sex, porn and masturbation, or he could even repress his sexuality, feeling a little bit limp. He may attract controlling women and abdicate any responsibility or leadership in that relationship. He might just be replaying the relationship with mum in a new relationship. He's indecisive, avoids responsibility, he's flighty, ungrounded. He often fears commitment, not just to women, but to anything. Tons of projects, progress towards none of them. And maybe he uses humour as a defence mechanism. A lot of men like this, they struggle to be serious, even when it's necessary. So that was a fairly exhaustive list of all the signs that could indicate that you still have a strong emotional umbilical cord at work. So now the question remains, what the hell do you do about this? Here's where we're going to get really practical. I'm going to outline a bunch of inner work questions that you can use to excavate and do some self-reflection to hopefully get some new insights. But I'm also, after that, going to give you a bunch of things that you can do, that you can start changing in your life pretty much straight away, that's going to solve the problem. And after that, I'm going to give you a very cool integration exercise that you can use that will give you some really good results, a few books that will help, and then we'll wrap it up. So the questions I want you to ask yourself are, finish my sentences. Okay, I'm going to say a bunch of these things and I want you to finish my sentences. Either now, as you pause the video, or you can do it in a journal on your own. First sentence, my mother was. Second one, if I could say something to her, it would be. Third one, I'm angry at my mother for. I wished that she was critical when. Her anger was. I needed her to. There you go, fill in the blanks on all of those and that should give you some material to work with. Now, assuming you've done that, here are 8 things that you can do to cut the cord starting today. Number 1 is independence. Move out of her home, become financially independent. It is very difficult to differentiate yourself, unmesh yourself from your mother and develop a sense of strong identity outside of the relationship with her and establish boundaries and stuff when you are dependent on her. Okay, so being independent is very, very important. Number 2 is travel solo. This is like a modern day initiation ritual. So today you can travel anywhere really for quite cheap. And I think if you've not done that yet, I really believe that you need to. Because going out and traveling solo, you'll encounter a bunch of stuff that you don't anticipate, which builds a sense of self-trust that you can handle shit. But also, you spend more time with yourself. Truly believe that you cannot learn who you are, differentiate yourself from your parents if you're just stuck with them, okay? So travel solo, don't lean on anyone else, be by yourself and see what you're made of. The third thing is to identify hidden resentments and anger towards your mother. A lot of men have repressed this a long time ago because they learned that it was easier to repress it than it was to confront her because it didn't go very well. So they just repress a bunch of anger within them. And that doesn't do anything. That just sits there. And in fact, that sabotages them. Oftentimes the anger comes out in very chaotic ways. Or the energy that's required to repress the anger is so great that eventually that leads to a kind of existential like depression and exhaustion. It's much better to become aware of what pisses you off about her or what has pissed you off in the past that you never said, and then you can start to become aware of that, which leads me to then step number 4, which is to stand up to her. Do I suggest that you have to go back and drag up the past and say a bunch of stuff to her? Maybe, if that's what you feel compelled to do. But one thing I do say is a non-negotiable is to stand up to her now. If you still have a relationship with her, if she's still in your life and she says things that piss you off or she says things that's not okay or she treats you poorly, you absolutely have to stand up to her and let her know that this is not okay. Every time that you allow this dynamic to continue, okay? And you're telling yourself that you are a boy, you're not a man. You are her little boy, you're not your own man, okay? So you have to stand up to it. It's very, very important. Number 5 is to connect with other men. As I said earlier, we don't exist in tribes or gangs anymore. And for a man's psychological development, it's absolutely crucial that we do that. I run men's groups periodically. If you're interested in learning when the next one's running, get on my mailing list. Just download the meditation that's down below. Get on my mailing list and I'll notify you. But this is very, very important because other men, healthy relationships with other men, they'll tell you the truth. They'll tell you when you're playing small. They'll pick you up when you fall. They'll encourage you, they'll highlight your achievements, but they'll just give you this other perspective that you probably lack. A lot of men are bamboozled to find that their relationship to their mother is not a normal one, and it's not a healthy one, but it's all they've ever known. So they don't know any different until a man tells them the truth. And if you do not have anyone telling you the truth in life, then you will remain a boy. Number 6, expand your capacity to handle fear. There is one key reason why you have not cut the emotional umbilical cord yet. Because the womb is comfortable and safe, and the realm of life outside the womb is scary and cold. It makes you very afraid. Maybe you have taken little steps towards a better life away from her. Maybe you have broke free a few times, but then you ended up back in the womb after a while, didn't you? That's because you couldn't handle fear. So expand your capacity to handle fear through gradual exposure to what scares you, and couple that with some embodiment practice where you can actually feel the sensations of fear in the body and learn to tolerate them. Number 7, start making more decisions. Mummy made all the decisions for you, didn't she? To the point where you lost your own authority and sovereignty over yourself. You need to take it back. You need to reclaim it. How do you do that? Start making decisions, both big and small, both grand and minute, of what you're going to do with your life. Okay? A lot of men avoid, they're quite flighty, avoid taking responsibility, kind of sticking their fingers in their ears and going la 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 la. Take them out your ears, open your eyes, and start making decisions about how you're going to live. Make decisions about what food you're going to eat based on your values. Make decisions about who you're going to spend your time with, where you want to live, what you want to be doing in 5 years. And number 8, this one particular topic, I'm just going to say, will require its own series of videos, okay? Because it's very, very big, but I need to mention it anyway. Number 8 is reparent yourself. And what that basically means is giving yourself all the things that you didn't get when you were a kid, all the things that you needed from her or from your father, indeed, but you didn't get. There is a way of giving yourself that now, okay? Because there's a child within you, in your psyche, that's still craving all these things. And if you are not connected to him, if you're not giving him the things he needs, then he's lost in there alone, afraid, scared. So it's about learning to tame the inner critic, okay? The inner critic that gets in the way of that connection, and learning to speak to yourself and treat yourself as a loving big brother who just wants the best for you. So those are all the things that you can do to overcome this. But there's one exercise that I want you to do, because it's a very powerful integration exercise, something that's going to help psychologically shift something on a deep and powerful level. You are going to write a letter to your mother. You are going to express all the things that you've never expressed before. Tell her in this letter what pissed you off, what you needed but never got, ways that she failed you. But then I also want you to let her know in the letter what you're letting go of, okay? What you're no longer going to tolerate, what you're not going to look to her for anymore, and what you're not going to engage with in the relationship. This letter is not to be sent or given to her. This is purely for you. Now, there's a few books that can help you along the way in this journey. I'm going to list them off now. The first book is called Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents by Lindsay Gibson. The second one is called The Problem of the Pure Eternus by Marie-Louise van Franz. I think I'm saying that right. The third one is When I Say No, I Feel Guilty by Manuel Smith. And the fourth one is No More Mr. Nice Guy by Robert Glover. But it can be easy to demonize your mother and see her as evil. I advise you to not do this. She wasn't evil. She was just doing the best with what she could at the time with her conditioning. It's possible to have deep empathy for her, but at the same time have a rock solid identity that's differentiated from her with solid boundaries. And this is exactly what we're going to shoot for. When you make this shift, this is going to change your fucking life, mate. I promise you. Women are going to respond to you differently. If you're struggling in your dating life, that's going to change big time. If you struggle with intimate relationships, that's going to change hugely. If you really have plenty of fights and conflict, that resolves itself. You'll have better friendships that are deeper, based on authenticity and trust. But more important than any of that, you're going to respect the man that you see in the mirror. You're not going to hear this self-critical voice half as much. If you enjoyed this video, click this one next, because I did this. This video is based on this video that I did. You guys asked me for this video after watching this one. So check this one out if you haven't already. It's about the passive father a bit more. So click that video next. And if you're interested in working with me, then click the link in the pinned comment below to learn more about that. Men, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time. Peace.